cruising along, but never on autopilot. This is the AnimeNation podcast, bringing you this week's interesting anime news and thoughts from your host, John. But I will spare you the Quinspiracy theories this week, and you can thank me for that later on. We'll start off the news this week with the belated, in a sense, word that Shoji Sato's current manga series Triage X will be getting an anime adaptation. I say belated because this is a franchise that we could possibly have expected to get an anime adaptation as long as several years ago when it premiered in 2009. But now at last, now that this series has 9 collected volumes of manga in Japan, it will be getting an anime adaptation. Shoji Sato is probably best known as the illustrator for the High School of the Dead manga. He's also known for putting out a variety of adult doujinshi comics under the circle name Inazuma. Triage X is available domestically from Yen Press. Yen Press has published 7 out of the 9 current volumes so far. And it's a series about some very buxom, near super-powered nurses who moonlight as vigilantes, who take out the criminals who are above the law, sort of like female versions of the Punisher. I have to admit that I'm a little behind on this manga. I actually own, I think, the first 6 volumes from Yen Press. However, I've only read the first one, and that first one I read a number of years ago, so my recollection of it is a little bit vague now. I do vaguely recall being a little bit actually underwhelmed by the first volume of manga, because I recall it having a lot of introduction and a lot of setup, but very, very little actual action, which seems odd for an action manga. However, presumably this will eventually get into more action, and if nothing else, it's full of plenty of attractive-looking characters and stylish art design, so fans of shows like High School of the Dead will certainly have something to look forward to with Triage X. Now, we don't know exactly when this will premiere, but I would not be surprised to see this premiere possibly very late this year or early next year. Sunrise and Avex have announced that their production Tribe Cool Crew will be an anime television series, premiering actually later this month. Avex and Sunrise announced the development of a project called Tribe Cool Crew last month, but did not say whether it would be a game or an anime or a publicity campaign or what exactly. But we now know that it will be a TV series, and in particular, it will be anime's first dance battle anime. Dance battle movies have become a bit popular in American live action. They started with You Got Served, and then progressed into franchises like Step Up, and have yet to really take off in Japan. However, that may change with the premiere of Tribe Cool Crew, which is about a young boy who just loves dancing and discovers the joy of partnering dancing and dance battles against other dance crews. The director of the You Are Umaso anime franchise, Masuya Fujimori, will be directing the anime, but more importantly, Yuki Tango, a professional dancer, will be supervising the dance choreography animation for the show, and the Japanese Street Dancing Association, a organization that I didn't even, frankly, know existed, will be overseeing the entire anime production to ensure a degree of faithfulness and accuracy in the presentation of dancing and dance choreography in this anime series. So, while you perhaps might not be a fan of dance anime, this is still something that may be worth checking out just because it will be the first of its kind. And you'll be able to check this out when the first episode premieres this month on the 28th. A Calimero CG anime is now being scheduled for Japanese TV broadcast. Calimero is a little black chick, little chicken, baby chicken, who still wears half of his eggshell on his head. He was a comic mascot character created back in the early 70s by Ignacio Kolanagi and the Pajot brothers, and became tremendously popular worldwide, enough so that in 1974, Toei produced a 47-episode Calimero anime television series. Then, in 1992, Toei produced a remake, 52-episode Calimero television series that extended its broadcast into 1993. Now, Calimero will be getting its third Japanese-produced television series, this one CG rendered. Furthermore, this current Calimero television series will be rendered by a Japanese studio in collaboration with anime studios in Italy and France. So while the show will be produced initially with a Japanese language audio track, I think we can anticipate that it will also be dubbed into Italian and French for television broadcast in Europe. The series will consist of 15-minute long TV episodes, and the first episode will premiere on October 7th. In some positive news, the Under the Dog anime concept has hit its initial Kickstarter funding goal of $580,000 US. This is great news. The Under the Dog sci-fi action concept was hoping to possibly hit as much as $5 million in donations to make a feature film, but that didn't happen. But at least it did hit its $500,000 initial funding goal with 2 days to spare. So we know for certain, now that it's hit its initial funding goal, that we will get at least a 24-minute long pilot episode. Now that Under the Dog has inspired a tremendous amount of support and enthusiasm in the Japanese fan community, and a lot of support from the international fan community, perhaps we'll be fortunate enough to see a Japanese investor or company come in and contribute a substantial amount to bump this up to more than 24 minutes, or perhaps multiple episodes, or perhaps a feature film. But, at the very least, I think that this is great positive news because it's demonstration of particularly American anime fans being willing to support the type of anime they want to see. A lot of the anime that's most popular in Japan tends to be romantic comedies and lighthearted shows. On the other hand, Under the Dog is typically the type of anime that goes over well internationally, and particularly in America. It's a very dark, gritty, grim, a mature-oriented action anime. So this is the type of anime that doesn't as frequently appear in Japan, doesn't as frequently get Japanese fan support. So this is the type of anime that Americans want, and it's nice to see Americans being willing to contribute money to the anime industry, to actual animators, to get this sort of anime produced. As I mentioned before, I contributed $200 toward this production. I want to send out personal thanks to everyone else that has contributed any amount toward this production. And I want to continue to encourage everyone listening that if you want the type of anime you want, contribute money toward those productions. As we see more crowdfunding progress, we may continue to see a greater variety of types and genres of anime appear. In terms of Japanese live-action news, the Piece of Cake manga by female manga artist George Asakura will be getting a live-action feature film. The original Josei manga was serialized from 2003 to 2008, and is the story of a 20-something-year-old Japanese woman who decides to reboot her life by quitting her job and moving to a new city, where she gradually starts to fall in love with her handsome young neighbor, a man who actually has his own girlfriend. So thus is where some of the conflict and some of the tension in the manga arises from. Considering that this is a relatively realistic story, and a story that skews toward young adult women, it is a story that we can see lends itself very well toward live-action adaptation. Now, we don't know exactly when this will go into production, nor when it will hit Japanese screens, but we do know that it will be getting a Japanese live-action feature film sometime in the future. In terms of domestic live-action, the word out now is that the Wanda to Colossus feature film has a new director attached. Some of you may know Wanda to Colossus, the PlayStation 2 game from Team Ico, under its American name Shadow of the Colossus. Sony Pictures announced plans a number of years ago to tentatively develop the game into a live-action feature film with Josh Trank directing. Josh Trank is the prodigy director of the found-footage superhero film Chronicle. He is currently filming Fox's reboot of the Fantastic Four movie. Josh Trank, after that, is scheduled to film one of the Star Wars spin-off character films. So because Josh Trank has a full schedule, Fox has picked up Argentinian director Andre Muschietti, the director of the Guillermo del Toro-produced horror film Mama, to direct the Shadow of the Colossus feature film. Now, a number of years ago, a few years ago, we had a selection of Snow White live-action films. Since then, we have not had a big number of epic fantasy live-action films. Certainly the Hobbit films, but outside of those, not much else. So if and when a Shadow of the Colossus film goes into production and finally reaches theaters, if it turns out to be stylistically and visually relatively faithful to the original game, this could be something really outstanding. Something that we can really get, as fans, our support behind. Wanda to Colossus is a very enigmatic, very atmospheric, very fantastic, in the literal sense of the word, meaning evoking fantasy, sort of game that could look really, really visually stunning and could be very, very emotionally engaging and engrossing on a giant theatrical screen with state-of-the-art visual effects, if done well. So here's hope that this does actually reach development and production. In terms of domestic news, we have a variety of excellent acquisitions here coming from Discotech this week. Discotech has newly licensed the 2007 Bokurano television series and the 1991 Lupin III Hunt for Napoleon's Dictionary television special. Bokurano, a series from Gonzo based on the manga by Mohiro Kito, is somewhat in the vein of young people piloting giant robot anime like Evangelion and Razaphone, but Bokurano is distinctly a little bit darker. It's an anime that I think a lot of us anticipated would be quickly picked up for American acquisition and release, but oddly never was. Viz did pick up the manga and released the manga domestically, but the manga is a little bit different from the anime adaptation. The anime, for those of you that are not familiar with it, is, in certain respects, a conventional kids piloting giant robots anime, but the twist that makes this a very grim and psychological and almost depressing anime is the idea that the kids have to pilot the giant robot in order to prevent the Earth from being destroyed by alien robots. However, every time the robot they pilot sorties to protect the world, one of the child pilots must die. So the kids are caught between a terrible Scylla and Charybdis conflict in which if they don't pilot the robot, the world will be destroyed, but if they do pilot the robot, one of them is guaranteed to pass away. So this is certainly a grim no-win situation for very emotionally vulnerable young people. I have to admit that I personally found the angst a little bit excessive. The psychological drama a little bit, honestly, a little bit artificial, a little bit narratively pumped up. So that put me off the show somewhat, so I never finished watching it. But for those of you that like giant robot anime with a little bit more substance, for those of you that want to see anime that you can really sink your teeth into and really get into the characterization and the psychology of, Bokurano is exactly what you're looking for. I have not watched the Lupin Napoleon's Dictionary TV special in a number of years, but I vaguely recollect it being one of the sillier, goofier slapstick specials. A lot of fans prefer the more serious, realistic Lupin specials, things like Walther P38 in particular, or the more recent Death of Goemon, Death of Jigen. A lot of fans prefer the more silly, goofy slapstick. I do recollect Napoleon's Dictionary being much more the latter than the former. Funimation has picked up and released a number of the more contemporary, the more recent Lupin the Third TV movies. Discotheque is slowly filling in the gaps with the earlier ones. This is the third of the TV movies from 1991. Discotheque has also picked up 2 licensed rescues. Discotheque has picked up the Samurai Troopers anime franchise that was previously distributed domestically by Bandai Entertainment, and Discotheque has picked up the first Comic Party television series, which was originally licensed for American DVD by Right Stuff. Samurai Troopers was originally released by Bandai Entertainment in 2004 in a hybrid DVD release that included both the uncut, subtitled Japanese Roaring Samurai Troopers television episodes and, on the flip side of the disc, the American edited English dubbed Ronin Warriors television episodes. In February, Discotheque will release the complete Uriden Samurai Troopers television series in its original subtitled Japanese language uncut version. However, Discotheque will not be releasing the English dubbed Ronin Warriors iteration. The OVAs will be released in a separate package, and the OVAs will be bilingual. Right Stuff released the 2001 Comic Party television series on domestic DVD in 2004 on 4 domestic DVDs. Discotheque will be re-releasing that series in its bilingual original edition in January. Comic Party is one of the relatively early adaptations of a adults-only PC game. It's a little bit different from the more conventional Galgame adaptations like Canon, Air, and Little Busters in the regard that Comic Party is not a conventional harem anime. Comic Party is an anime about making fan manga, about making fan-created anime. So fans of shows like Bakuman and name about the voice acting show has completely slipped my mind now. Mangaro. Fans of shows like that should enjoy Comic Party. Furthermore, because Comic Party is about creating anime, it's filled with references to obscure Japanese pop culture and anime and otaku culture. So those of you that really appreciate lots of in-jokes that you can really enjoy picking apart and learning should enjoy Comic Party quite a bit. Some good domestic releases this week. This week, Viz released the complete Blood Lag television series on DVD and separate DVD Blu-ray combo. Sentai Filmworks released the complete first season of Fate Kaligliner Prisma Ilia on DVD and separate Blu-ray. They released the complete Gatchaman Crowds television series on separate DVD and Blu-ray. And they released the Stella Jogakuin C3 Bu, or Stella Women's Academy High School Division C3 television series on subtitled DVD. Funimation released the complete short HAL anime motion picture this past week. And NISA, Nipponishi Software America, released the complete first half of the first Love Live television series on the limited edition and super limited edition Blu-ray DVD combo. Good releases that I sadly, especially one aspect, have not picked up yet. I enjoyed Blood Lag quite a bit. If you are a fan of Soul Eater, I highly recommend Blood Lag. If, like me, you were a little bit disappointed with Soul Eater, if you wish that Soul Eater had a little bit more substance, a little bit more witty humor, a little bit more tightness to its story, then Blood Lag may be exactly what you're looking for. Now, at only 11 episodes, Blood Lag is a little bit disappointing that it's not longer, but at least at 11 episodes, it does have some semblance of a complete wrap-up. So, like many anime, it does not completely wrap up in 11 episodes, but at least you don't get a complete, total frustrating cliffhanger after 11 episodes. I am not really a devoted fan or follower of the Prisma Ilia franchise, but I respect it. The Prisma Ilia franchise, I concede, has nice character design, lush-looking art design, and frequently very nice animation quality. I'm not actually even certain why I don't really like the show personally, but I do think it is a quality program. So if you're a fan of Fate Stay Night, or if you're even curious about the Prisma Ilia spin-off franchise, I would recommend giving it a shot. It may surprise you. You may be quite impressed and pleased with it. I was very surprised and very pleased by the Gatchaman Crowds television series. Despite its namesake, Gatchaman Crowds has very, very little in common with the original Science Ninja Team Gatchaman franchise. Gatchaman Crowds is a far more eclectic, creative, postmodern anime. It's an anime that deals very, very pointedly with contemporary themes and concerns. Its animation style is very, very experimental and postmodern, we can say. So, if there is anything to complain about with Gatchaman Crowds, it is the fact that the American release does not include the final episode director's cut. Regrettably, the final episode director's cut was a separate license, so at least so far, Sentai Filmworks has not acquired that episode. That episode is, strictly speaking, the Gatchaman Crowds OVA. It's an epilogue. So, thankfully, the TV series does have a moderately complete and successful climax and conclusion. So you're really not missing a tremendous amount of the story by not getting the OVA episode, although it would be nice to have it included as well. Stella Jogaku C3Bu was the first of the Bishoujo airsoft gun anime. It's comparable to the currently broadcasting Sabagebu. However, I personally think that Sabagebu is the superior illustration of the concept. I was personally quite disappointed by Stella Jogaku C3Bu because I thought it restrained itself far too much. But it does have its supporters, and there are people who say that because the story changes a bit halfway through, if you stick with it, it becomes more rewarding. So if you are a fan of Upote, if you are a fan of the currently simulcasting Sabagebu, then you might definitely want to take a look into Stella Jogaku C3. I am not really familiar with the HAL short motion picture at all, so I have very little to say about it. I'm also not really a fan of Love Live, but I do have to say I'm still disappointed that I was unfortunately not able to purchase it. I've been collecting the Nipponichi Software America limited edition releases from the outset, from the very first one, Toradora Limited Edition Set 1. Love Live was the first and so far only one, excluding Cardcaptor Sakura that I already have, that I forgot to pre-order. Sadly, as luck would have it, because I forgot to pre-order this one, it's the only one in recent memory that's sold out on street date. The limited edition and the super limited edition of the first volume of Love Live DVD Blu-ray combo has sold out everywhere. It is literally impossible to get now, even though it's only 3 days old. The tentative word from Nipponichi Software is that they have no plans to reprint the limited edition. This strikes me deeply in the heart as a collector because I have a 2-shelf collection of every Nipponichi Software limited edition except Love Live. So if I'm not able to acquire a copy of the limited edition, my set will have a hole and I'll be tremendously heartbroken. But in a larger scope, I am very, very happy about the apparent success of the Love Live release. I remember a number of years ago, 10, 12, 15 years ago, when anime of this genre had no shot in America at all. Back, for example, when AD Vision released Chance Triangle Session here in America, sold very, very poorly. Nobody in America at that time was interested in this variety of slice of life, girl game, performance anime. Anime like Wake Up Girls, or Idolmaster, or Love Live. However, now that time has passed, now that America's fan community has changed and matured, there is much greater interest in American fan community in different varieties and different genres of anime that were not popular before. So I'm very pleased to see a genre of anime like this doing well, that previously would not have done well. But, as I've said, I am disappointed, even though I'm not really a Love Live fan, still disappointed that I don't have my personal copy of this, just to keep my collection complete. So, I would like to personally implore NISA, please reprint the limited edition so I can keep my set complete. I sadly, on a minimal teacher's salary, don't always have the money to purchase all the anime releases that I'd like to, which is why I have not purchased Gatchaman Crowds or Blood Lad. But thankfully, I do at least sometimes have opportunities to pick up new releases and anime that I'd like to have in my collection. This past week, I was fortunate enough to find some really good deals on Aniplex's domestic release of the first DVD volume of Magi, the first DVD volume of Blast of Tempest, and the Aniplex America import of the Rurouni Kenshin anime movie Blu-ray. This past week, I also picked up Sentai Filmworks' DVD release of Happiness and Right Stuff's DVD release of Shikufuku no Campanella, Happiness in the Campanella. So, I'm pleased to have added some new anime disc releases to my collection. This past week, I was also fortunate enough to pick up brand new, affordable copies of Viz's release of Cat-Eyed Boy, Volumes 1 and 2. Hopefully, at some point in the not-too-distant future, I will actually have some time to read them. I also, this morning, put in a order, combined with a pre-order, for the first 3 volumes of Shin Kozure Okame, or New Lone Wolf and Cub. I'm really, really anxiously looking forward to these coming out. I'm very eager to read these. And then I also picked up a handful of random assorted, used and bargain-priced other manga. So, I don't mention this to pad my own egotism. I mention this to give you, listeners and viewers, a better sense of what type of anime I like, what type of anime I collect, and to demonstrate that I really am a die-hard anime fan. I really do buy and collect lots of anime. Not, as I mentioned, as much as I'd like to, but certainly a lot more than a lot of people do. I also watch a lot of anime, and particularly, I find myself right now completely enthused with and completely addicted to the ongoing Barakamon and Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun television series. Now, before this current Japanese television season started, I kind of anticipated being interested in Barakamon, but I was a little cool on the first episode. Lately, I find that the episodes are becoming stronger, more engrossing, more engaging, and more charming with each week. Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun was a title that was really not on my radar at all before this current season and its premiere. But it instantly grabbed my attention from the first episode, and particularly recent episode weeks have been completely uproariously fun, hilarious, and charming. So I find myself really counting the days lately to each week's new episodes of Barakamon and Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun, and I find myself thinking that new episodes just aren't coming fast enough, because I'm really just tremendously enjoying these particular 2 shows. I'm always very curious to know what you're watching and what your opinion is on both the current state of anime and the current state of the anime fan community. So, as always, feel free to send your questions about anime your way, and, your questions of anime